Today, I sent a personal letter to the U.S. Department of Justice. In that letter, I made two requests. The first request is that the DOJ do everything in their power to expedite the review of the Albuquerque Police Department and to transmit their findings to me at the earliest time possible. In lieu of a final report, I requested any additional preliminary information and findings that are available at this time. The second request is that the U.S. Department of Justice enters into immediate negotiations with my administration with the goal of crafting and implementing a plan to monitor and track progress involving systems improvements at the Albuquerque Police Department. It was not an easy letter to write, and I didn't take it lightly. This letter should not be taken as an indication that I have lost my faith in the men and women of the Albuquerque Police Department. They go to work every day and they risk their lives to protect our families, our property, and our city. And the vast majority of police officers conduct themselves with the highest level of integrity, professionalism, and honor. And I'm confident that they will continue on that path. The fact is, however, with the length of time it has taken the DOJ to complete the review, coupled with the events surrounding the James Boyd incident, I did not feel that I can wait any longer to take actions those spelled out in the letter today. I believe it's the right thing to do for the city of Albuquerque, and I think it's the right thing to do for the Albuquerque Police Department. Until we have the results of the DOJ investigation, it will be impossible to fully move forward. However, immediate negotiations to implement a monitoring plan is a significant and meaningful and important action to take at this time. I'm fully aware that there will be members of our community who will never believe that we're doing all we can to improve community outcomes unless we build that partnership and continue our ongoing partnership between the Albuquerque Police Department and the Department of Justice to monitor initiatives and their progress. Over the past 4 years, my administration has implemented unprecedented reforms at APD, over 60 reforms in fact. And the results of these unprecedented reforms are that officer-involved shootings went down from the spike that started in late 2009 and went into my first year in office. We've gone from that spike to below average or average officer-involved shootings over the past 3 years. But the fact is, in light of the James Boyd officer-involved shooting incident, we need to do more, and we need to take action now. So where do we go from here? In addition to the requests spelled out in the letter, we have included for the DOJ's information several other key reforms that Chief Eden and I have crafted during his first 30 days as our Chief of Police. These reforms include the following: hiring of a 4th Deputy Chief, whose duties and responsibilities will include oversight and implementation of DOJ findings and recommendations, accountability and training measures surrounding internal affairs, mental health awareness, use of force, de-escalation methods, and critical incident training. The development and implementation of a highly monitored evaluation system for officers that will track officers from the training academy throughout their career, including any lateral entry officers, including background and other evaluations. The development and implementation of a department-wide cultural training program surrounding constitutional awareness. Also, there are several mandates from Chief Eden, including the following. He wants 100% of the Field Service Bureau officers to receive CI training and certification. That's over 100 hours of training, and he wants that done as soon as possible, including all new cadet graduates to be CIT certified upon graduation, starting with the next academy in June of 2014. Just for reference, we currently have 27% of our field officers that meet that criteria. Out of the 426 officers that would regularly, as a normal course of business, take field calls, 116 of those have the full certification. Money will be set aside also for the training pay and others, and that's part of the $1 million that's in my budget. Additional protocol and training for de-escalation techniques involving encounters with individuals in our community living with mental health issues, both at the police academy and continued in-service training for that issue. As you know, yesterday we announced $1 million in my upcoming budget that will be used for the evaluation, training, and implementation of policies and reforms related to police interaction with people who are living with mental health issues, and to implement early DOJ recommendations and to get that process started. And finally, today, the final announcement for Chief Eden's initiatives is to develop a strategic plan for all field supervisors with an emphasis on frontline supervisors, including sergeants. Part of our discussions as well, along with the DOJ and others, including Rob Perry, my CAO, is that Chief Eden will be developing and implementing a community-wide plan for interaction. We have a great number of individuals in our community that want to be engaged in this discussion. We want them engaged, we're listening. We want to have an ongoing effort to do that, not just today or tomorrow, but in the coming years as well. In addition to the action items spelled out in my letter to the DOJ today, I'm calling on our community, our state legislators, and our city councilors to take action as well. There is something for everyone to do here. And we don't want to limit anybody's response or dictate anything that any other elected officials do, but here are a couple of recommendations. To our city councilors, please work on reforms at the POC, at the Police Oversight Commission. Over a year and a half ago, we sent down 17 recommendations to the city council, who is actually in charge of the Police Oversight Commission, and they have taken action on some of those items, but I think there's more, and I'm hopeful that there's more that they can do involving the community and others. To my friends in the state legislature who I served with and who I enjoyed serving with 4 years before I became the mayor, we need your help. We need you to help craft laws to help individuals living with mental health issues, particularly individuals who have a record or propensity to do damage to themselves or others. Now that could be a Kendra's Law type solution, or it could be some other solution. But I trust that there are solutions out there. We are one of only a few states in the country that don't have some type of a Kendra's Law. And I look forward to seeing and working with our legislators in that regard. And to our community, stay engaged with us. Help us craft additional plans and solutions that work for all of us, including support of our APD officers who risk their lives for us on a daily basis. And in closing, we're all aware that we're facing some difficult circumstances right now, but as your mayor, I am confident that we can work together between the Department of Justice, and our community to craft solutions moving forward that will be good, not just for the Albuquerque Police Department, but our community as a whole. So I've got time for some questions and answers. If you would bear with me, there's a lot of folks in the room today, so I'll do my best to get everybody in. So if you could hang with me as we go. Do we want to just kind of start here, maybe move around, or just want to go by hands? How do you want to do that? All right, Jeff?
Mayor, why weren't some of these changes made or suggested until days before the Justice Department came back with their report?
Well, we don't know that we're days before that. In our discussions with the Department of Justice and the folks that we're working with, we still don't have a time frame. We're hopeful that that's forthcoming soon, but I didn't want to wait for that. We wanted to take action today.
So then why not sooner than whenever this report might be released?
Well, once again, we've put over 60 reforms into place in my first 4 years in office, and we know that has made a positive impact. But frankly, the James Boyd officer-involved shooting incident really was a game changer, and we want to continue with those reforms, and we will continue with those. But pending the outcome of the DOJ investigation, we wanted to reach out to them today and start crafting a monitoring plan that I personally feel would be part of what's going to take place in the future, but I don't want to wait for the future. We want to take action today.
Mayor, there's a report that was done in the 90s, and it seems like it could have been written yesterday. It talks about the high number of shootings, the costly payouts, problems with IA, the distrust with the community.
Okay.
Why do you think that those problems still exist today?
Well, I think policing is a challenging business, and I think the environment is continually changing. And I can't refer to that report because I don't know that I have it, and I haven't reviewed it lately, and I don't know that I've seen it. It was from 1997?
It's the 97 Walker Luno report. It's posted on the city's website.
Okay, but because I haven't had a recent review of that or a review at all, I'll just say this. Challenges that face police departments today and communities today in some ways are new and unique, and in some ways they're the same challenges that have been facing communities and police departments for decades. We are being aggressive. We have been aggressive with reforms. We believe in the men and women of our department. We have community concerns. All of these things come together, and we find ourselves at a place today where we want to continue to do more, build up an even more collaborative relationship with the DOJ and the community and the police department as we move forward. Yes, sir.
There are fewer CIT officers today than there were a few years ago. Have you looked into increasing the size of the crisis intervention team?
Absolutely. That's one of the mandates coming down today. It's in your press release. Chief Eden, in his first 30 days in office, has spent a great deal of his time getting started with the process of reviewing the department. One of the things that he brought to my attention fairly early is that he would like to see, and especially now in light of the James Boyd officer-involved shooting incident, he wants to make sure that 100%, that's 100% of our officers are CIT certified. We have 27% today. I don't know what other departments in the country have, but I've been told prior to today that we have a rather high number in the first place. He also wants to ensure that all new cadets, when they graduate, including the upcoming June cadet class, will have that certification upon graduation, unless there's some field requirements that go with it, and then we'll have to wait for that. But for all intents and purposes, have that certification upon graduation. That is a sweeping change, and that is a significant change. And so I think Chief Eden has recognized that. He's brought that to my attention. I agree with him, and that's part of what, that's another thing that initial $1 million can help to start the process of crafting that particular initiative as well.
Mayor, that 100% CIT training, that's something the Ellis family asked your police department for a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Why didn't you give it to them then?
Chief Eden has been here for 30 days. He brought that to my attention, and I agree with him. And we're going to be moving forward with that. I allow my chiefs of police to run their department. I don't try to micromanage their department as a mayor. I try to be there to support them and the men and women of the Albuquerque Police Department. If that would have been brought to my attention earlier, that would be something that we could have talked about. I don't recall that being brought to my attention. If it was, I'm remiss in that comment. But I think when Chief Eden brought that solution to me, we jumped right on that idea because I think it's a good one. And it's not going to be an inexpensive one. And it's probably a solution that's not common in the country. I don't know how many departments would be able to claim that, but I can't imagine it's many.
Chief, yesterday a coalition of business groups and advocates unveiled a plan to build a new mental hospital here in the city.
Yes.
What is your reaction to that? They claim that this may help the police department in its interaction with those who are struggling with mental illness.
My staff has actually been talking to the folks on the west side that had that idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. I know it's short on details as we speak today, but I would fully support that. And I would fully support any idea that anybody has coming forward to talk about things that we can do, because there's a larger issue here. We have a critical incident with the James Boyd officer-involved shooting. We all know that. But we also know that we take hundreds of thousands of calls each and every year. And we know that almost every single one of those has a positive outcome. The ones that don't are what drive change. And that's where we find ourselves today. But in addition to policies and procedures within the Albuquerque Police Department, we need to have a much broader discussion. In fact, a much larger national discussion. In fact, I've been to the White House at the President's administration's, at the Obama administration's invitation to be one of the leaders in communities as a mayor to broaden that discussion on dealing and providing services with individuals who are living with mental health issues. This is a component part of that. And I always want to say this. Mental health issues do not equate to violence. But when you have a combination where someone is living with mental health issues and they have a propensity to hurt themselves or others, this is where we have to do better. So, long answer to your question, I'm fully supportive of that or any other initiative to provide services in our community. Yeah,
Why
Dan?
do you believe a DOJ monitoring agreement is, why do you want a DOJ monitoring agreement? Clearly you can make these changes on your own.
Well, we've made a lot of changes on our own, and it's evident that there are individuals in our community that would like to see an outside independent source, like the Department of Justice, monitor what those actions are and to help us set goals and guidelines and monitor those as well. And so we understand that, and we're welcoming to that.
Mayor, can I get your comment on the recruitment and retention for the new Millennium Plan? That's actually a 2007 report. Why now? Why have we not implemented these recommendations years ago if this report isn't new, came out in 2007?
Are you talking about the 1997 report?
2007?
Okay, I've heard two reports.
It's the Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, released in 2007, and it is the recruitment and retention for the new millennium. So basically, it's the same.
Can you just refresh me for the purposes of today's interview? That report was crafted by?
That report was crafted by the Cooperative Agreement, Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services.
Was it between the previous administration?
No, this is at a national level.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And so, but interestingly enough, it's the same recommendations that we're looking at today. However, this came out 7 years ago.
Okay.
Why now? It has the same title as we're kind of promoting for recruitment and retention for the new millennium. Why didn't we look at something like this previously?
Well, you know, we started off, and when Chief Schultz was here, we hired PERF, which is the Police Executive Research Forum. And we did that in early autumn of 2010. At that time, we'd already gotten to the point where we had an average number of officer-involved shootings in the city of Albuquerque. And let's be clear, we wish the number was 0. But the average in Albuquerque, is reported in the ABQjournal, is approximately 8 per year. Okay, so we took aggressive action at that point in time, put these 60 reforms into place. And those reforms, I've got lists of them. The most prominent of those reforms may have been, you know, the lapel camera use. We're the only, if not one of the only departments in the country that have widespread implementation of the video cameras with our officers. There were recruitment and retention efforts with that as well, and I could read you some of those initiatives here. But I have to, I'm going to have to go back and review that report and cross-reference it. But Chief Eden, like I say, has been here for 30 days. He's come to me with some of these recommendations. I think we were very willing with any, you know, with Chief Schultz or Chief Banks, and now with Chief Eden, to approach their reform ideas and support those as an administration. We'll continue to do that. Yes?
Can you expand a little on what DOJ monitoring will mean? What does
well, it has to be negotiated. We've been in discussions with the DOJ for several days, Rob Perry, and the short answer is it could be any number of things. But what it certainly is, it will be individuals who will be paid for by the city of Albuquerque. My understanding is, and once again, this we have to have this accepted by the DOJ, and then we have to negotiate it. But the general understanding is there will be individuals brought in from the outside who are agreed upon by both the Department of Justice and the administration. That could be one person to head that effort, and it could be any number of individuals working underneath that individual in different areas to make sure that they're working closely with our command staff at the Albuquerque Police Department, not only helping craft initiatives and recommendations, but then setting benchmarks in place so there's some accountability measures, and then those individuals can act in an independent fashion, working with the community and the department to ensure everyone that the initiatives are taking place, that the Albuquerque Police Department is doing what they said that they would do, continuing with the reforms that are in place today, and any new initiatives we have coming forth from that. So it's an outside independent, it's an auditing function in one way. But also, we see it more than that. We see it as a collaborative opportunity. And when the findings come through from the Department of Justice, I would guess that would have been part of that. So if we can get an early start on that, get some of those monitoring plans in place early on, use that as part of a negotiating process. Once our findings do come out, then we're ahead of the game.
In your opening, you said this was a difficult letter to write.
It was.
Tell us why.
Because I don't want it to be misconstrued as a lack of faith in our department. And I want the community to know that we're listening and we're taking their concerns seriously. And when you write a letter like this, it would be easy to misconstrue it on one side or the other. And so we just wanted to make sure we had a balance there, to where the men and women of the Albuquerque Police Department could go out every day and risk their lives for us, for you and for me, and who almost all of the time do wonderful work, don't see this as an indictment by the mayor on them or the department. And we want community members, some of whom may never think we can do enough, don't feel like we are simply giving lip service to an issue that we all know is of grave concern. And so that's why it's difficult to write. We just want to make sure it's balanced and that everybody understands that we're doing our very best and our level best to address concerns on all sides. Yes.
All right, Mayor, you talk about taking action, sending a letter to the DOJ requesting for them to expedite this investigation.
Yes.
What about specifically with the James Boyd investigation? We're having a vigil tonight, protest scheduled for Friday. They're going to sleep in preparation for the city council.
Sure. Let me do a couple of things, and I've been kind of wanting to say this all day. We want people to participate in the candlelight vigil that want to participate, but please work with our fire department.
Right.
And Chief Downey and I met earlier today. We want folks to be safe and keep the environment safe. They'll be in an area where there's a high fire danger. The fire department folks are going to be up there trying to work with the vigil organizers to make sure. So we don't want anybody thinking that we're trying to stop their vigil or anything, but please work with us. It's dry out there, and Chief Downey. So ask your other side. I want to make sure I answer your question fully.
So we are under scrutiny. Albuquerque is. I don't know if you've seen the national coverage. Law enforcement.
I've been on some of the
experts
national
are,
coverage myself. Yes.
Right, and there are some law enforcement experts out there who have been in law enforcement who are looking at that video saying that the officers messed up. Has the officer who fired the shots, those officers, have they been fired? It only took state police 3 weeks or at least a month to fire Elias Montoya when he shot at the van full of kids. What is the city doing?
A couple of things. Within hours of seeing the video, and I saw it through media, by the way. That's where I saw it the first time. I instructed Rob Perry and Chief Eden to get with the Department of Justice and ask them to look at that as an individual incident, because that incident has a lot of people concerned, myself included. I will not make a judgment on that prior to getting the investigation done. Chief Eden can, I believe, the officers, Chief, let me just make sure I'm clear on that, their status as of today?
Administrative leave.
They're on administrative leave, and that's per the contracts we have, our collective bargaining agreements and our union contracts. My understanding is they're not taking calls for service with the badge and the gun at this point in time. We want to wait until that investigation is done. I want it done quickly. Of course, we can't tell the FBI how fast they can move, but I have great faith in the special agent in charge of the FBI here. I've known her for several years, and I know it will be thorough and comprehensive. At that point, we'll have answers. And that's part of the reason I'm taking the actions I'm taking today. It's taking a long time to get the DOJ recommendations, and they have been very collaborative and professional to work with, and we do not want to rush them. But in light of the James Boyd incident, while we're waiting for answers and recommendations, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today, is to make sure that we can not wait for everything to come through. Once that investigation is completed, then there will be actions to take based on multi-jurisdictional, based on what the DA finds, based on what the FBI finds. And so, but we don't want to wait for that.
Mayor, we've been told before that Keith Sandy would not have a badge or a gun. Okay. Why was he given a badge and a gun in the first place by this city? That
was done in the prior administration, and I cannot answer that question.
Have you asked?
Have I asked? That is part of the ongoing investigation that we're doing, that we will find the answer to that. And I don't know the answer because it didn't take place during my administration. It took place at a time when the department was being ramped up to 1,100 officers, and I just wasn't in the room at the time, so I don't know.
May we see his lapel camera footage from the shooting, please?
I'm going to refer you to our Albuquerque Police Department, who's working with the FBI on that to make that decision.
Chief, may we see the lapel camera footage?
I'll let you. Please, I'd like to respect what we're doing here today. Chiefs is here. You could ask him questions after this, but let's finish this one up. Do we have any more questions for this? Yes.
Mayor, a lot of these recommendations focus on mental health awareness, behavioral health initiatives, and while no doubt important, when it comes to the DOJ investigation, the investigation isn't about the mental health status of Albuquerque. I mean, it seems like this is kind of deflecting from kind of the point of the DOJ investigation.
Well, I think it adds to it. The investigations is an investigation into patterns and practices. They have a routine process that the DOJ goes through, and when they're through with that, they will have looked at myriad issues, and I'm confident of that. But one of the things that we know, if we look at the officer-involved shootings over the past several years, and I would guess that if we looked at them for even years prior to that, 65 to 70% of these encounters that we have had that have resulted in officer-involved shootings have involved working with individuals in our community who are living with mental health issues, and the very, very small percentage of those individuals who find themselves in encounters with the police and public safety professionals, whether it's sheriff or others. And so we don't want to, whether the DOJ finds civil rights violations or doesn't, which is a big part of what they're looking at. I don't want to miss this opportunity to really talk about training, about protocol and procedures, because it's such an issue nationally. I mean, we are not where we need to be nationally with mental health care services. We're not where we need to be in terms of services that, like I say, that are provided to individuals that are living with mental health issues, whether they ever have anything to do with the violence or not. And so I wanted to just use this as an opportunity to expand the conversation.
Mayor Berry, you said that in light of the James Boyd shooting,
yes,
that you made this decision that this had to go
It's part of why I'm made this decision today, yes.
But, I mean, we've also seen cases like Chris Torres's in the past, which is, of course, in civil litigation now for
sure.
much of the same thing. And we've also heard the case from Kenneth Ellis, who the city paid out millions of dollars to. Why couldn't this have happened much earlier?
Well, we took, I want to be clear, we took unprecedented reforms and put them in place during my administration, over 60 of them. And that spike that we saw in 2010, and if you look decades back, every decade seems like there's a year with a spike, but we got aggressive very quickly on that. And we were able to drop that number of officer-involved shootings to less than half of that number the following year, below average, another year with below average, and then last year, we were actually on track to have half of an average number of officer-involved shootings, which we wish was 0. But then we had the Christopher Chase incident, and that, of course, it counts as an officer-involved shooting even if an officer is shot. That is an officer-involved shooting as well, so that counts to the total. And then we had, I think, 3 within several weeks after that. So, as a mayor, you don't, or even as a chief of police, you can't control the types of encounters that from the chief's standpoint, that you find yourself into as a law enforcement officer. What we're trying to do is continue with those 60+ reforms, work with the DOJ, build a monitoring system, build that community trust so that people know that we're taking this not just seriously, but we're taking aggressive action to make meaningful changes. I'm going to do just a couple. Let's do a couple more here. We've had a lot of time. Let me do Caleb, and then let's go back, and then we'll see if we can wrap it up. Yes, sir.
In terms of developing community trust, and I apologize if you touched on this and I didn't catch it, but a lot of people have asked for like a citizen policing, a community oversight, citizen oversight panel. Is that something that has been considered?
Yes, there's 2 pieces to that. First of all, it's a Police Oversight Commission, which is a city council function, and part of what I'm urging the council to do today is part of a meaningful thing that they can do to address the situation is to work on crafting better solutions for the Police Oversight Commission. I don't think anybody thinks that's working well today, and it hasn't been working well for several years. But the other side is what Chief Eden has come forward with, which is implementation and development of a citywide plan for community engagement. We have talked to individuals outside of Albuquerque who have been through this. There's been 50 cities that have had DOJ investigations of their police department over the recent past. 14 just, I think, since the time that they looked into Albuquerque. So we do actually have some good models out there. Every city's different. What happened in Seattle, for example, is different than what happened in Portland, and that's different than the situation in Las Vegas or in New Orleans or in Albuquerque. But even this morning, we spent about an hour with an outside consultant who is an expert in this, working through another city that had it, who's telling us that there are really great initiatives that we can craft here, specific to our situation, specific to our city.
What sorts of things?
Well, once again, we're just at the very beginnings of that process. The mandate from Chief Eden is that we craft that, and we craft it quickly, and we get that into place. And that will take some consulting help, and we've actually had our first conversation along those lines today.
Okay.
Russell, let's do, can we just do
Mr. Mayor, 2 questions. One is can the city come back from this?
Yes.
Second is, you mentioned the hiring surge that happened in the previous administration.
Okay.
Do you think that contributed to any of the problems?
I get asked that a lot, and I really, the easy thing to do would probably be to point fingers. I've never done that, and I'm not going to do that today. I have a job to do as a mayor. Whether it is determined through investigations that was or wasn't the case, that's really not what I spend a lot of my time thinking about. I think about the city today, the city that I have an opportunity and I'm blessed to serve, and how we move forward. So you don't always get to pick the cards you're dealt, but you got to work with the cards you have. And I just don't know, and I would be remiss to say it was or wasn't. I think there's some factual things there that there was certainly a ramp up, and we've had several incidents with folks that kind of were part of that ramp up, but I can't make a correlation between that. That's someone else, somebody else will have to do that.
Mayor, thank you guys.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
A lot of the public distrust comes from folks, people in the community who say that there are men and women in the police department who should not be police officers. Which of these sweeping changes addresses finding people who are quote, unfit for duty? Actually,
it's on your press release, and let me find it. Let me just get it. It would be, it's on my notes here. It's under the hiring of our 4th deputy chief. Whose duties and responsibilities will include, one of those things is to develop and implement a highly monitored evaluation system for officers that will do a better job of tracking officers and their performance from the time they graduate to the academy throughout their careers, to help them gain professional development, but also help spot issues even sooner. We have a plan in place today to do that. Chief Eden has told me under no, without reservation, that system's not good enough. And he's told me that in his first, and that's based on well, let me just add one more thing to that. That would include lateral officers as well. Prior to my administration, there was a lot of lateral transfers into the Albuquerque Police Department. We have not done, I don't know that we've done any in my administration, or maybe we've done a few. We've not used that necessarily as a recruitment tool. Now, as we, like other departments around the state and around the country, strive to make sure our numbers are adequate, there may be a time that you do look at lateral officers. We haven't done that yet, but if we do, we want to make sure that there's a more robust evaluation process for when that happens. Let me answer the second half of your question. Remind me what that was again.
It was what's sort of in place now, currently today in the department. The chief said is not good enough.
I'm gonna have Chief. Maybe he can do a little one-on-one with you afterwards and do that. I know that we have, like, we track 3 incidences. Upon the 3rd incident, there's triggers that go into place and other things that happen. I've talked to our chiefs about that, but not being a public safety professional, I'd rather have you discuss with Chief.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for coming today. We appreciate your time, and I appreciate your questions. And thank you for coming today. How you doing, man?